What's up, everyone? I'm filling in for Gene tonight. We got Coach Donnie Difilippis, Yale Street Wrestling Club. Um, Hope you guys will enjoy tonight. Try to get him in here. Hope everyone's being safe out there, finding ways to train.
Jazz,
There
what's
he
up, man?
is. What's up, Coach? How we doing today?
All right, man. How you doing?
Same old thing.
Yeah,
Finding ways to get better and making it happen.
I've been following the podcast that you started. I like
Uh,
it, man. I like the
yeah,
Ray Jaz tip of the day too, man. Very motivational.
yeah. A lot of positive response from it.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
great.
if you have a good one, feel free to send one over.
I will. I will. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Appreciate all the support. But how you doing, and how you dealing with the whole lockdown and everything? How you keeping your athletes motivated?
Well, we've been doing a podcast or a live Instagram every Tuesday to talk with the coaching staff, to keep our members and our parents kind of like interacting with us in a certain way. As far as that goes, it's really hard. It's a really tough time when you think about training. It's hard to train, right? I mean, with our sport, you can only listen. We should be running. We should be sprinting. We should be lifting. We should be doing our stance and motion and jumping rope and everything. But it's really hard to simulate wrestling. Shadow wrestling's great, but as it can only do so much. But that's all we can do right now, and make the best of it.
Yeah. You can only do so much. You can only do so many bodyweight squats. But
Right, right.
yeah,
I
but
mean, the kids that have brothers, like they're getting an advantage because they can roll around with their brothers and get better. I mean, I've been having Dominic and Anthony roll around, and I feel like the little brother's actually benefiting from this. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, you can always hand fight with your brothers, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Shoot some low singles on your parents. You can still work on that. So, you've been coaching for a numerous amount of years now. What kind of coaching philosophies do you take on?
Oh man, I mean, that's a great question. Like it's changed. I've changed a lot over the years. I mean, when I first started coaching, I was still kind of in college, and still wrestling. Still had my career, so I wasn't really, that all in. You're still when you're competing, as you know. I mean, you have to be selfish, so you can't really be all into coaching. I coached high school for 10 years, and I learned a lot in those 10 years that I coached high school. And I was fortunate to be involved in some really good programs. I coached at New Providence High School. We were in the group finals. We wrestled Paulsboro in '05. I coached Shane Mallory, who made it to the state finals that year. Coached at Brearley, which we lost in the group state finals again. We lost to Long Branch, and then I spent a couple years at Bound Brook, where we had a lot of success. I was fortunate to be around some of the best wrestlers in the country, and had some state championship teams and state championship individuals. So, and I learned a lot from all the people that I was around back then, on how to build a program and sustain it. And, your philosophy changes now when you make that transition into being a club coach, right? Because now everything's different. So I kind of tried to keep the philosophies that I learned from these guys and these great programs and I was able to be around, and try to, apply it to how to run the club. And, right now, I think our biggest thing is a mutual commitment is our philosophy on that, because it's not really that popular in the clubs. It hasn't really always been, because there's a lot of people that go to a lot of different clubs, and some people like to experience the club hopping thing. And we just kind of, almost the way that we run our program is we kind of like eliminate that. So there is a mutual commitment that might be a little, turn some people off. It's not for everybody, but I think that's the one thing where I would probably say is our main philosophy.
Yeah, definitely. It kind of becomes like a stable, right? If you want to get good at wrestling, you have to join a wrestling club. You have to do some sort of strength and conditioning. What could you say Yale Street, what do they do differently than any other club out there?
Well, I think, if you look at like the way that we try to develop relationships with our athletes, it is a little different in a sense that we all coached high school. Myself, Dan Hilt, and Shane Mallory, who continue to coach high school. And, we try to get, develop that type of relationship that you needed to develop with your high school athletes and try to apply that to the club. And it's hard because you're working with a different schedule. When you're a high school coach, you see them every day, every day during the season, but you also have restrictions in the off season. So what we do is the way we run it, this is not popular with a lot of people, but, I have to turn down a lot of people when they call up and they say, hey, we want to do private lessons with you. I say, well, you have to join my club to do private lessons. Well, we're not looking to join your club. We're happy where we're at, but we want to come to the garage. Well, we don't do that. That's not part of our system here. I can't really justify doing a private lesson with someone. We have, we've grown. So we have close to 100 members, sometimes over 100 members, depending on the time. I can't really justify making time to do a private lesson with someone who hasn't really bought into my program. Why would I take time away from somebody who has? Now, a lot of clubs like to put who they work with because it's a way of advertising, right? Like, hey, this guy's a state champ. He did private lessons with me, or he came to my club. So we do lose a little bit of that when you have that type of system, but I'm okay with that. I think at the end of the day, I really just want to concentrate on the kids that buy into our program and make them better. And sometimes you do end up having a state champ like we did this year. So, but you're not going to have, you're probably not going to have like your 5 or 6 state champs year in and year out like some of these clubs do. So what we have is a little bit different and a little bit more homegrown, I guess,
Yeah, I like that. You make them a part of the team, that Yale Street team. It's
Right.
not a come as you go type thing. It's like, you're part of Yale Street, you're part of our team. And, seeing you guys around, you guys take pride in, the Yale Street. I see all the singlets, all the shirts. So it's great to see. What are some ways that you help your kids with mindset?
So, it's funny. Gene and I were teammates in college. Also, Dan Hilt was on that team, who's coaches with me at Yale Street. And when Gene first started out, Gene and I would talk a lot. And he said, we want to get down and try to work with some of your kids on their mindset training. And I always would tell Gene, I feel like that's one of my jobs as a coach, is to work on their mindset. And we're always talking about, how you're approaching practice with a purpose and goal setting and, just how you have to attack your seasons and your training with a purpose, which a lot of people don't do. And you have to have, how to approach matches, how to control your nerves, stuff like that. But what wrestling mindset does is they get to really focus in on that specifically and really spend the time that is needed on one subject, which, as you know, is huge. I mean, it's just as important, if not more important, as teaching technique and wrestling live. And we have had just nothing but success with our kids that have trained with wrestling mindset. And luckily we've had, probably, I want to say, definitely, I can think off the top of my head, 6 or 7 kids in the last 2 years that their parents have reported nothing but positive improvements in the way that their kids are from wrestling mindset.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many different layers to the sport, not just technique, but, the mental game, right? Dealing with those pre-match nerves, dealing with, looking at the rankings. I know that got a lot of people's heads. It got in my head when I was in high school. But what are some things that you tell your wrestlers? Just, you have like a word that you go to, like score points or win the position?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? There's not so much a word. I think it's more so we just try to remind them to have fun. I have a ton of stories, as you do too, where I remember, I'd be in the locker room before a big match and I'd be like, I want the building to blow up because I was so nervous, and then you remind yourself, hey man, nothing's stopping me from just going home right now. I could say I'm sick. I could say I'm injured. I don't have to wrestle this match. Nobody's making me wrestle this match. I'm doing it because I want to do it, because it's fun. And when you get to that point mentally, you kind of overcome those nerves and you're able to perform. Now, there's certain stories where I'll tell kids, of my own experience, and the other coaches do as well. But, I think when you mentioned rankings, and I think one of the biggest obstacles I think our athletes are facing are their parents. You know,
Yeah.
unfortunately, the parents are the ones. Oh, hold on a second, Ray. I gotta quit this. Their parents are the ones that are reading Full Circle or whatever the rankings are, NJ.com and Flow Wrestling, and their parents are the ones that are talking about it. And I always have to. I remember we were at the Ward to Shore last year, and you know it was the youth kids, but you know parents left and right coming up to me. Oh man, he's got a tough one next. And I'm like, what did you expect we were going to have when we came here? It's the Word to Shore, you know, that's what we want. There's not even a reason to bring it up, you know. And when they say that, the kid's standing next to him, like, oh, geez, I got to wrestle a tough kid.
Yeah, I got to wrestle this guy.
Yeah.
You want that competition. What's the point of training if you're just going to go and pin the guy in 5 seconds? You know, it's all about competing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
I think before big matches, like the biggest thing that we do is we just try to remind kids, like, this is what we train for and this is what makes it fun. You know, I mean, you can practice all day. You're going to get tired of that. The competition is what we practice for.
Yeah, the competition is a reward at the end of the day. And another big thing that I see a lot of athletes struggling with is, you know, social media, right? Everyone's typing everything up, you know. Everything's everyone's showing what they're doing every day. So, I mean, I'm sure that's a big problem. How do you deal with that with your athletes?
And that's something that, you know, I can't look to, and neither can the other coaches at Yale Street. We can't look to that and say, how did we deal with that? Because we didn't have that. You know, a lot of the things that we look at as coaches, we can use our own experience to help our kids, you know, in those situations. But in social media, we can't. So we just do our best. I mean, to try to, I follow all the kids that I can, you know, on our social media, on our Instagram. Like, I'm not a big follower of, like, people I don't know. Like, I'll follow some, you know, names, like guys that I've met, like Kyle Snyder and Yanni, like those guys that have come down, and Anthony Ashnault, your buddy, you know, like guys that have come down and done clinics for us that I know and respect. I'll follow those guys, but I try to follow all of our members too, so I can see what they're doing. If I see them posting stuff that they shouldn't be posting, or if I see them getting involved in conversations and you know, writing messages to people that they shouldn't be doing, I'll talk to them about it. You know, I mean, that's probably the best way that we can handle it as coaches, try to get on top of it.
Yeah, definitely, because you're not just building them as wrestlers; you're building them as individuals, as you know, as men and, you know, women. So that's super important. Seeing what they're doing on social media, you know, they're like Gene always says, your actions should dictate your goals. And you know, if they're doing something on social media that, you know, is not reflecting their goals, you know, you kind of have to call them out.
Yeah, and you know, again, dude, if I had a platform when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, God only knows what I would have been putting on there. So it's not like I'm judging them. I as an adult, as a 39-year-old coach, I just want to help them, you know, in these types of things, because we're all learning through this whole world of technology, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, social media is a good thing, and then it's also a bad thing. You know, you know, you kind of need it to promote, you know, a club and a brand as well. So what are some ways you do that on your end? Where can people find you?
Oof, man, I mean, I tell you, I joke around about it. It's like another job, you know. Running the Instagram for Yale Street Wrestling is like another job. So that's our handle on Instagram is Yale Street Wrestling, and I think it's the same on Facebook. I don't run the Facebook, but the Facebook is connected to the Instagram. But yeah, I just try to put positive messages out there for what we're doing, you know. Like, I know the kids get a kick out of when they make it on the Instagram and they get a post for winning a tournament. That's something that's really important to them. So that's what I've been doing. I've just been kind of almost using it as a scrapbook, you know, for our club. And I guess that in turn works as advertising. Now, we're lucky that we had a wrestler this year that kind of stood out in New Jersey. That's always great advertising when you have somebody like that. And, you know, but, you know, John Paz, he's graduating, and you know, what shows, you know, a good program is, can you follow that up, you know, and that's what I'm looking forward to next year. You know, we're going to miss John, obviously, losing an athlete like that to graduation. He'll never be replaced, but he'll always be around. You know, he's staying local, he's going to Rutgers, and he'll be popping in and out of the room. He's still, you know, planning on doing that. But what can we do as a program to follow that up? And we do have some kids that I think can place high on the podium next year. The only problem now is I don't know if there's going to be a next year. I hate to think like that, but you know, you have to prepare for these things.
Yeah, you always got to have to know the worst in your mind and kind of build towards it, right? Control what you can control. right
Yeah.
now, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's tough, you know. I mean we can't control it, so the only thing we do is train as hard as we can and plan on competing next year. Like I keep telling, you know, guys like Blake Bonner, you know, Nico Colello, Brandon Bowles, like envision yourself getting your hand raised in Atlantic City, envision yourself winning that state title, because that's what we've been working for your whole life, and that's the only thing you can, you know, keep you going right now, and it's gonna happen. I keep telling them it's gonna happen. So
Yeah,
hopefully it
yeah.
does.
Yeah, hopefully, right? So, I mean, you guys have something special over there. Like I said, you know, especially with Paz having a big year this year, he kind of sets the standard, right? So you want everyone basically, you know, buying into, you know, Paz's mentality. That's the Yale Street mentality you guys built up, you know, being a class act, right?
Yeah, I mean, John is a special kid. You know, he's always been so coachable, very, you know, very talented in his work ethic and his passion and his commitment. And you know, to have him in the room. I mean, you coach a lot of our younger kids. You coach the middle school in Columbia Middle School. I mean, we have a lot of those kids, and you know, I've seen them improve a lot under your tutelage, and you know, especially, you know, Dasty and Kreisberg, like those guys have improved tremendously. So it's been a great pleasure working with you as a coach. But to have a guy like Paz in the room and those guys get to train alongside him, you know, and our other younger kids, it's just my son's just turned 8 years old, and for him to be able to go and train in the same room John's in and watch him win the states, it's motivational for those kids. It's great, you know?
Yeah, definitely. You know, he's leading, you know, he's leading by showing his actions, which is very important. And, and, you know, building the controllables, you know, effort, attitude, aggressiveness, something we preach at Wrestling Mindset. You know, sometimes it's not about technique, it's about mentality, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much you trained or how much this other guy trained. Sometimes the match is won right when you step on that line, right?
It's totally true. I mean, you know, you look at the mentality of John. He never worried about what his seed was. He never worried about who he was wrestling. He never talked about that. And like, that's something that a lot of these younger wrestlers, that dominates their thoughts. That dominates their conversations. What they're going to be seeded at the state tournament. Who's going to be at this qualifier? Who's going to, you know, John never spoke about any of that. He just went, whoever was across from him, shook his hand and was ready to take his head off. And that's what it was all about, you know?
Yeah, definitely. That's what it is. You know, it doesn't matter what that other guy did. You can't bring your state medal on the mat with you, right? You start 0-0. So I think a lot of, you know, young athletes, they get caught in that, or especially when some parents or even coaches say, "Oh, this kid, he's got the best single leg in the state of New Jersey." Well, I do too. You know, you gotta put, you know,
you hit it on the head, dude. There's coaches that do that. Like I've heard coaches go up to kids and be like, "Oh, this guy rides legs, man. You don't want to pick bottom. What are you doing? You're you know, what the hell is that? Like, he might not even be good with legs for all you know. You saw him ride a leg on a guy, and all of a sudden he's Zane Rutherford. You know, it's like, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, definitely gets in the mind of a lot of athletes. Oh, this guy, he throws legs, or he's a hammer on top.
Yeah.
Well, your mind should be like, I'm a hammer on bottom. I'll get out on anyone.
Right. You know, it's funny because you were coaching. You were at a tournament with one of our kids, and our younger kid, and he lost the match. And, you know, in the situation he was in, he picked bottom, and it was the third period where I think he lost the match. He deferred in the second, but that's a whole nother conversation. But he picked bottom in the third. He got ridden out. He lost 2-1 or 3-2. And, you know, there was a big debate on whether he made the right decision. And when I talked to his father, I was like, absolutely. I said, if you lose that match, if you don't pick bottom and you lose that match, then you can't sleep at night. But you made the right decision. And he told me that you came up to him afterwards and told him you did the right thing, man. You kind of reassured him, like, hey, you picked bottom. That's where you're supposed to go. You know, it's a mentality.
Yeah,
it's a mindset.
Yeah. It is. It's a mentality. And I wasn't always big on deferring. I would go right down the bottom.
Me too.
It's a free point right there.
That's right. And if the guy rides you out, you don't come off the mat and say, hey, man, I should have picked neutral, or I should have done it. You come off the mat and say, I got to get better at bottom.
Mm-hmm. I got to get better at getting out of legs, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's it.
And it starts at that young age where it's like, you know,
Absolutely.
no, you go bottom, because there's a time now when that kid with that match, it's going to be 3-2, and he's going to be in the high school region finals, and I bet you he picks bottom and he's comfortable with it, and he does. He gets out and win it. You know,
Yeah.
maybe that doesn't happen if you never did that, you know, a couple of years ago in grade school, right?
That's right, dude. That's right. I mean, 100%. You know, I never talked to you about that, but I wanted to thank you for that because you reassured the message or you reinforced the message we were trying to get across.
Yeah, definitely, and especially at that age, it's kind of like simple, making it very simple for them at that age. So you know they get their basics down, and then they grow from there. And if you develop their mentality at that age, then you know you don't have to harp on it when they're in high school or even in college, right? Then it's not even a question. All right, first period's over. Where are you going? You win the toss. I'm going down.
Yep, that's it. Yeah, I mean, that is something that we've talked about, like Gene and I talk about. I actually got on the Instagram Live that he was on with Zach Evanesh with Underground Strength. And I asked Gene that question too, you know, specifically about bottom and what the mindset does when you second guess it. And he said the same thing. He's like, yeah, I mean, if you're okay with, where do you draw the line? You know, like, okay, this guy, yeah, he's pretty good on top, so we're not going to pick bottom here. Well, then, you know, eventually everybody you end up wrestling is good on top, and then you can't go bottom against anybody. So I think the mindset is, this is my game plan. I mean, look at the NCAA finals. How many people choose bottom? All of them. Usually,
All of them, every single
100%.
one. Yep.
When it's their, now some of them may defer, you know, and that again, right? Like that's, for me, like I need a technical reason for why you're going to defer. Not, hey, I want the choice in the third period. That's not a technical reason. Like my technical reason for deferring with my wrestlers is we're good on top. If we're good on top, then I'll defer. And then that guy will have to pick bottom. And then we get him in a position we want to be in. But when I say good on top, I mean like definite ride, probable turn. I don't mean like,
Zane Rutherford on top.
Yeah, I don't mean like, hey, we run an armbar against a kid from Manville, but you know we're not turning like anybody with a 500 record. That's not good on top, you know.
Yeah, got to be good in all positions, and you know, knowing what you're good at is, and knowing your go-tos is very important too. I have, you know, before like during my warm-ups, I always have the kids drill their best moves. Drill your 3 best moves 5 times.
Awesome.
And that's part of the warm-up, because I feel like sometimes that's overlooked, right? Kids have different, you know, abilities and skills in wrestling. Some kids are good at single legs. Some kids are good at double legs. So how do you touch on that and touching on their athletes, you know, their best skills and forming a plan going with running your practices?
I think that's great that you do that, because like if you're in a match and you're down by 1 and you need a go-to takedown, what are you going to go to? Are you going to go to the move that your coach made you drill, or are you going to go to the move that you know is your favorite takedown? So I like that. I think it's great to do that. We try to individualize stuff too, you know, like not everybody. I tell you from my own personal experience, like I remember I was in college and we got a new coach came in and was running a practice, and we were doing single legs for like an hour. Now I have no problem drilling single legs. You know, I think everybody should drill everything, but like for an hour we're drilling single legs. And it got to a point where I was like, dude, I don't even shoot single legs. Like I didn't shoot single legs. I was a low single, high crotch, duck under guy and shrug guy. And, you know, for me, I remember thinking at that point, I don't think at this point this is helping me as a wrestler. Now, I myself at this age as a coach would have hated coaching the wrestler that I was. I would have hated coaching myself because I was definitely I was a different kid, you know. So I'm a different person now, but I still kind of remember those things. And I try to make sure that the kids feel like they're getting something out of practice, and that we're not coming in and we're just making it like, you know, one size fits all type of thing, you know, like, hey, you like shooting high crotches. I like working off an elbow tie. Not everybody likes working off an elbow tie. Some guys like working off an inside tie. Actually, most people like working off an inside tie. Some guys like posting. So we'll say, hey, your variation, let's do high crotches, but your setup, your finish, you know, stuff like that. I think that's important, especially at the club level, because kids are a little bit, your majority of the kids that you're getting are a little bit higher level than your average high school room. obviously not South Plainfield type of room, but like, you know, like your average high school room. So you have kids that can understand that.
Definitely, definitely. And, you know, what was some of the best advice you got, you know, as a college wrestler, even now coaching, that you could share with everyone?
Well, I guess, you know, it's hard to think of just one, like, you know, one thing that somebody told me. I mean, I think that as a coach, like I can, you know, remember what the advice that I got from Marty Gleason about developing a system. Marty Gleason was, for people that don't know who Marty Gleason is, he is basically the architect behind the Bound Brook program. He has since taken you know, a couple steps back, but when I was coaching there, when I was in high school, I used to work out there in the off season. Marty was a big influence on me as a wrestler and a coach, and he instilled the importance of having a system on a team. And you know, our system at Bound Brook, you know, it was a hand fighting. It was based around hand fighting. Everything was hands on. They did throw a low single in there once in a while, but everything, they had a boot scoot too, a part of that, but everything was based on underhooks, deep hand fighting. On bottom, it was stand-ups, knee slides, stand-ups. That's it. No messing around, which is the exact opposite from what we do on bottom at Yale Street, because we do knee slides and stand-ups, don't get me wrong, but we also encourage rolling around and using your hips and stuff. But getting back to Bound Brook, that was that system. On top, it was tight waist tilt. It was legs. So, yeah, he wanted to get everybody in the system. And I remember there was a kid who had phenomenal hips. His name was Josh Ugaldi. He was a two-time state runner-up. And I was working with him a little bit on some bottom stuff, jumping his hips over and stuff like that. And he was getting pretty good at it. But the problem was that other guys were now looking at it and wanting to do it. And Marty, you know, talked to me. He's like, listen, this is our system. Like, I'm not saying that what you're teaching, Josh, is not good, but I want everybody doing the system, you know, because the system works. And if you want to kind of branch outside the system with certain kids, you can. But, you know, if you see a kid that doesn't have the hips to do this, you need to point that out to them, not encourage them to do it. And it made a lot of sense, you know, it made a lot of sense. And again, like I was fortunate to be around guys like Marty Gleason and Gary Bremer, my high school coach, and, you know, just got to learn a lot from those people, from spending time with them. As far as advice as a wrestler, I can't even remember, man. I was an in one ear, out the other type of guy, man. I was not a coachable kid. I really wasn't. Like I did it my way. And part of the problem was I had a lot of success early on in my high school career, making the state finals as a freshman. And, you know, I felt like I knew everything, you know? So I feel like now as a coach, I try to catch kids that I can relate to and hopefully change their mindset. And because I know that it stopped me, and it stopped me from being a better version of myself as a competitor.
Yeah, we call that the white belt mentality. Gene calls it, being able to learn and soak in as much information from coaches and mentors that done it before us. You know,
100%, man. Yeah, like I said, I would have hated coaching me now. I had Delacruz, so I guess I paid the penance for that, because Greg wasn't easy. I love him, but he wasn't easy.
That's awesome. All right, Coach. Where could everyone find you at? Yale Street Wrestling Club on Instagram.
Yeah, Yale Street Wrestling is the handle on Instagram, and our website is YaleStreetWC.com. Street is spelled out. YaleStreetWC.com.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, Coach. I appreciate it. Be safe.
Thank you, Ray. Thanks a lot, man.
Awesome.
I'll keep following that Breakfast Buffet podcast, man. I love it.
Thanks. I appreciate the support, man. Thank you.
All right, man. See you.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much. That is the end for tonight, and I hope you guys enjoyed. So take care, everyone. Be safe.